Hi! So I thought I would read you the 3 books that we're going to do over the next 3 weeks. So they're here. Ta-da! So we've got Where the Wild Things Are. That book is going to be for our guided reading. And then we've got The Last Tree, which is going to be for week 5. And then we've got Stuck, which is for week 6. Okay, so I'm going to read through them all. I'll do different videos just to make it easier. And then, yeah, we'll get started. So this one is the first one I'm going to read. And this is called The Last Tree. So it's from someone called Emily Haworth-Booth. And this is the blurb. You can see the really lovely picture of a really big tree, little girl and a dog. So we have to find out what that's all about. But the blurb on the back says, once upon a time, a group of friends were looking for a place to live. They settled in an unspoiled forest where the light was dappled and the breeze was gentle. But before long, they started cutting down the trees to make fire and shelters and homes. They cut and cut until one day, only one tree was left. Can the children save the last tree? A story of hope and rebellion about our relationship with the environment and with each other. Interesting. So there's a couple of words there that you might not know the meaning of. We've got the word settled. So that's when people are trying to find somewhere new to live and almost to make a whole village out of it. And an unspoiled forest, which means that it hasn't been used yet, and it's just grown or natural, and it's probably not been touched at all, or there hasn't been any children running in it. So let's get started with the story. This book's got really lovely pictures in it, so hopefully I'll get to show you. Okay. If not, you can always look at the PDF whilst I'm reading if you wanted to. So this says, once upon a time, a group of friends were looking for a place to live. The desert was too hot, the valley was too wet, and the mountain was too windy. Nowhere was quite right until they saw the first tree. You can see first tree's just there. Look at that. And came to the forest where dappled light fell through the leaves and gentle breeze twisted between the branches. All summer long the friends lived and played among the trees and slept on the mossy floor. When winter came, the breeze turned colder and they took a few branches for firewood. So you can see the difference between the nice green trees there. And then obviously we know that some trees in the winter, they lose their leaves. So they've started to lose their leaves and they've decided to chop down some of the branches. But where they had taken branches, the rain came through and put out their fires. They chopped down a few whole trees to build shelters, but that made the forest colder still. So they cut down some more trees to turn their shelters into cabins. So you can see how it's changed. We've gone from lots of bushy trees to just a few leaves, no branches, and now they've started to chop down the trees. Soon it seemed that the more wood they took, the more they needed to take. When summer returned, the sun blazed down and there wasn't enough trees left to shade them, yet a few more branches made very pleasant porches. Before long, the people became skilled carpenters, and all summer they worked hard to make the perfect village. So a porch is like a little shelter just in front of your door where you can sit under, but you're not technically in your house. So porches for shade, ladders for climbing up to build porches, laundry poles, carpentry tables, chairs for sitting under the porches. But when the autumn winds came through again, they whipped through the spaces where the trees used to be, throwing all the villagers' fine work into disarray. They needed a new plan, one that would solve all their problems forever. Let's tie everything down with a rope. That'll never work. Well, we have to do something. We could catch the wind in big bottles. That wouldn't work, would it? A barrier's the answer. We need more wood. So they cut down all the trees still standing, all that is, except one last tree. That was no good to anyone. So the tree doesn't look like the one on the front cover, does it? So we can see it's just a little sapling at the moment. What about that one? Oh, leave it, it's really more of a weed. And with the wood they built a wall. Look at that. What fun they had working together to build it, and how proud they were when it was done. Stillness descended like a blanket. The cloves stayed put. The plants grew tall and straight. At last the place really was just right. But with nothing to look at but the wall, something happened to the people too. In time they started to forget their games and songs, and soon the happy village had grown cold and hard, for now the villagers had walls around their hearts. So if you're doing, I think it's Tuesday's lesson, you'll probably just get to this point, and then tomorrow you can listen on. I saw the neighbours looking at me strangely yesterday. I think they're jealous of our cabbages. They were peeking through our window, I swear it. Perhaps we ought to reinforce the door, fence in the garden, board up the windows. It had taken all the wood they had to build the wall. And so, before too long, each parent, thinking they were being clever, said the same thing to their child. Remember that last tree? The one more like a weed, tiny and weak? We need to stay inside and guard the house. So, will you take this axe? Go out beyond the wall, see if it's still there, chop it down, and bring us back the wood. Get it before the neighbours do. But when the children, creeping out beyond the wall, found each other by the little tree, they soon forgot their task. They laughed and ran and played and sang and tended the tree and gathered its seeds. Each day they visited, it grew a little taller and more proud, until they knew that they could never cut that last tree down. Meanwhile, each night the parents asked their children why they hadn't brought back wood. But when the children talked about the tree and how it made them feel, their parents wouldn't come outside to look or even listen. That's when the children knew what they had to do. They started to bring home wood, but it wasn't from the last tree. I wonder if you can think where they're getting that wood from. And when it was delivered plank by plank, their parents didn't question why it was so long and straight and smooth. All they said was, "This'll do just fine," and "Oh, that's good." So you can see they're carrying in a plank of wood, and in the distance, I wonder if you can see these little children by the wall. They boarded and banged and fenced and reinforced, and never once looked out or up. It was only when the wind rushed into the village, rattling their boarded up windows and knocking down their new fences, that they ran outside and saw that despite all their new wood, the last tree still stood, and the wall has disappeared, or is starting to disappear. Look at this picture, isn't that amazing? In the bright daylight, they remembered that they were old friends, not enemies, and when they heard their children playing in the tree, saw how cool the wind twisted gently through its branches, and the sunshine fell in dappled shadows to the ground beneath, they were reminded of how things used to be. Then all at once they understood what they had done, and how, perhaps, they could begin again. So now you can see in this picture, they're starting to pull down the wall. they've got more trees growing, and if you look even closer, they're starting to plant new trees. What fun they had taking down the wall, and how proud they were when it was done. As they planted seeds and tended the saplings, they talked and sang, and as the children grew, a new forest grew with them. And the last tree became the first. So that is the story of the last tree. And I hope you really enjoyed that story. I'm going to also put it up as a PDF so you can read it yourself on the class page. Okay, on to the next book. See you soon.